this was my dream. And now that I've accomplished it, I didn't know what to do next. Like I accomplished what I wanted to do and hadn't thought of what I could do more. And faith is really big for me. And being humble and not aspiring for things that I associate with like greed. And it's just those kind of mindset blocks that keep me from dreaming even bigger.
Welcome back to the Your Next Move podcast with me, your host, Kimberly Brown. I am very excited to bring today's episode to you. I have Abriana. We are doing a one-on-one coaching session today. We are talking about all things about making mistakes in the workplace, about confidence, and really about figuring out what is your next move. How do you determine what is the next thing you should be doing? I really enjoyed this conversation. And if this is a conversation that you'd like to have with me, or you have your own ask, I invite you to head to the show notes. I have a link there for you to fill out a form if you'd like to appear on another episode of the Your Next Move podcast. So with that, let's get right into the episode for today. Hi, Abriana. I am so excited that you are here today with me.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, so we can jump right into it. I would love if you can just introduce yourself a little bit and introduce what you'd like for me to coach you on today.
Okay, so I am Abriana. I'm from Detroit. I go by Bree from the D because I am in the media space. And so that's my history is journalism, is video production, is writing, is artistry. Honestly, I see all of that as a form of art. And so I think that's my purpose. I'm so blessed to be able to be living and walking and making money, doing the things that I love. And so that has been honestly a blessing and a curse because I'm so emotionally attached to what I do. I find it difficult sometimes to navigate through moments where I'm feeling not confident in myself and the creative output that I'm doing, but then also learning how to do all of this in a professional space. This is my first full-time job. I've been here for 4 years. And so career mapping is something that I'm really looking to get out of this, how to make that action plan that you speak about, because I get caught in that planning and execution cycle.
Got it. I got it. So I hear a little bit on the confidence side, confidence in like your own creativity and your work output. And then essentially, what is your next move after this?
For sure.
So kudos to you. Like, I love that you spent 4 years like honing your craft in the role. I took a little peek at your LinkedIn. So you have significant experience really in your field. So tell me a little bit about the triggers. Is there a trigger that in particular makes you not feel confident?
So I was that straight A student, right? Where I was praised for the A and not necessarily the process of getting to the A. I'm learning this recently where it was like I found a lot of fulfillment and accomplishment and not necessarily the process. And so whenever I stumble a little bit in work, that can make in the past has made me really pause and like freeze and feel insecure and not know what to do and fawn a little bit. And so that has been a recent thing that happened to me. I made a mistake at work, but it was also a struggle of like, I was also a little bit affirmed in that, but whatever. I think those are some bigger, my main issue right now. And then to the confidence side of it, this was my dream. And now that I've accomplished it, I didn't know what to do next. Like I accomplished what I wanted to do and hadn't thought of what I could do more. And faith is really big for me and being humble and not aspiring for things that I associate with like greed. And it's just those kind of mindset blocks that keep me from dreaming even bigger. It's just tempering myself with like, this is still within God's will. It's okay to move forward.
I have so much I want to say. So I'm going to pause on the confidence piece and I want to go back to the making a mistake. One of the things I wish we did in the workplace more is normalize that mistakes happen. Normalize that we are going to mess up. We can always hope and pray that it's not catastrophic in whatever industry like someone is in. Like there's regular mistakes and there's like catastrophic, like you may lose your job mistakes.
Right. Or hurt someone. I'm thankful.
Or hurt someone. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that there's like a range of mistakes. And I like to think about, is it a knowledge mistake? It was a
Mhm.
knowledge mistake. Was it completely in
Mhm.
your control? Like, were you moving too fast? And that's like, oh, like, let me check myself and like make sure that I have my own operating together. Like, I know how to
Mhm.
go about doing this task. Was it knowledge and someone didn't inform you of what needed to be done? So you submitted what you thought was grade A, but it turned out not to be grade A because you didn't have the information needed. And especially for mistakes like that, I'm very big on like, now that you know, we got to kind of let it go because you did everything you
Mm.
could within the best of your ability to deliver something that was great, but you were not given the information needed in order to make a different decision. And I see you
Yes.
nodding. So do you
Girl,
feel
all of the
like
above. So it
which
was
one do
a
you feel like it was?
mistake. It was a mistake in the sense that I have two roles. I'm a dual role. I'm a producer and I'm also doing marketing. Marketing is not my background, but it's something that I want to learn. I love my job. They've paid for me to take trainings in marketing so I can learn. And so I was learning something new and didn't quite fully grasp what needed to be done or what that process would look like. I thought I was doing everything proactively and still something fell through. And so it was that kind of mistake.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And that's just, I think that's normal.
Hmm.
I'm not going to
But when
normalize that.
you're a
Like,
perfectionist, it's like dagger to the
oh,
heart.
oh, it sucks. It absolutely positively sucks. Like myself included. Like when I think about when I make mistakes and it's like, oh my God, like I should have known, or I thought I did everything I could. Like I put so much time into this. Oh my God. And you're sitting there literally just beating yourself down because now you know. But the reality is when you were going through it, I've only known you a few moments, but in hearing, even in listening to your submission, looking at your LinkedIn, I can tell that you are a diligent human being in how you
Thank
approach the
you.
world of work. So I think that part of that confidence piece, we have to like remind ourselves in making mistakes. Like you did every single thing that needed to be done with the knowledge you had in that moment.
Yeah.
And if that is what you did, then we have to practice releasing it.
Hmm.
If we did not do everything that we were supposed to do and we were being lazy, we were half stepping, we kind of tried to do something fast and didn't plan, then that's a different conversation. But that's not what I'm hearing from you. I hear mistakes are happening because you're learning something new, you are testing. And this is the element of trial and error that has to happen in order for you to rise to the next level.
For sure. And I tried not to make me that experience make me doubt my decision making, where it's like I made that decision and what I thought was an informed one. And some of it went well. Like it was a launch of a website. The website is up,
Mhm.
it's thriving, but it failed
Yes.
for like 6 hours. And you know how, like, when a website is down for a long time, that can be like a big deal. So,
Those
I
6 hours, you
learned
were
from that.
just
And
losing it. Yes.
yeah.
So one of the things I want you to do after this episode, I think especially since I love that you talked about like the dual role. Anybody who has a dual role, anybody who's learning something new, getting into a new role, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be trial and
Mhm.
error. Things are going to take you longer than necessary sometimes while you're getting up and running. I want you to do something I call tracking your wins. And I want
Mm.
you to make a list of your biggest accomplishments, your
Mhm.
biggest, the things that when you look back and you're like, yo, Brie, I did that.
Come
Like
on.
every single time. Exactly.
Yeah.
I want you to make a list of those things. And I want personal and professional so
Mm.
that you, when you're going through and you have mistakes that you've made, when you are really nervous about going forward, I want you to be able to look back and recall your success. I do this for myself. I have a list that I go back on when I'm nervous and approaching something new. I also have a happy folder in my email that literally, if someone's like, oh my God, Kim, like you killed this. I'm so grateful that you did this, or this was really great. I go through that folder to remind myself that I'm that girl. I'm always going to be that girl. And even if I made a mistake, I learned to get to that point. Because I think that when we make mistakes, we get caught in this cycle of, I should have done better. I should have known better. I don't understand why this happened. Like, this was so terrible. Like, I'm better than this, especially for us perfectionists, right? Because I put myself in that bucket too. I think recently I talked on the podcast about how I was very accomplishment driven for a very long time. Like I wanted the thing, I need to get the thing, do the next thing. I
Yes.
need to check the box. I want the gold star. I need the certificate. I need like proof that I did the right thing. But that's not necessarily working. And I think over time we get to a point where we have to kind of evolve and be able to kind of give ourselves a pat in the back and be okay with like the ebbs and flows of learning.
Yeah. I definitely think that that overlaps with the confidence piece for me because I have an empty folder of accomplishments and wins on my
Not an empty
appraise folder.
folder.
It's empty, girl. I do not like they come in and I don't harp on the wins and successes as much as I harp on the losses or whatever, or I just let them roll off. So I do need to like sit in that for a moment, collect them, but I don't know.
I'm
It's
so
like
mad
once
it's an
I've
empty
accomplished the
folder.
thing,
So
it's
what?
empty.
Why won't you put something in the folder? Because I know you have it. I know someone said that, girl, like that was amazing. Like, why won't you like move
Yeah.
that in?
Yeah. I have this conversation with people and I think it's similar to like it's hard for me to sometimes accept compliments even where it's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like and just move on. And it makes me uncomfortable for some reason to sit in that praise of me. So that's something I probably just need to work through. But I will make an effort to fill that folder
Oh,
with
I
more.
need, when we hang up this call today, I need you to go through. And also, because I'm really big on holding people to the carpet. One of my favorite things that they've done at conferences, I've been at a lot of like intimate conferences with women. Um, they do this thing where they make you share your receipts. So
Come
I
on,
want you,
accountability.
yes, and I'm going to ask you to do that right now. I want you to share 3 receipts, 3
Mm.
accomplishments, 3 kudos that you've had in the last 4 years at your job.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to share them. Share it with the whole Your Next Move audience. Let us know
Oh,
what.
right now?
Oh, yes, right now. Yes, right now. I want you to share because I know you have them, but you just haven't been asked to do that. I want you to share
I'm
3
screaming.
things.
Okay. um, I love one of my favorite compliments actually is when people say that I made them feel really comfortable during an interview.
Yes.
I love that. It just makes
Okay.
me feel good. Um, I've hosted a few events for my job and people have had really fun times. People have like made business connections through them
Okay.
and shared those experiences. And so I really appreciate that. And I got like a little round of applause from the team for leading a project that was pretty big, and so that feels good to be acknowledged for that. So those are 3 wins.
How did that feel sharing?
Um, the first one was really genuine. The first one was very heartfelt. The
Okay.
last one to me was just like, that's my job though. It's like I do what I'm supposed to be doing. And so getting a clap for that sometimes is like, that's probably why I overlook the praise that I get for that. But to
Okay.
acknowledge it is I think beneficial because it definitely would help in other areas because I am seeking a raise and other things. So that definitely
Oh, I can't wait. We're going to talk about that
would
too.
help. Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things I just want to share, and my clients always laugh when I say this, um, and it's a little harsh, but most people are mediocre, like at best. At best, I think as high achievers, many times we surround ourselves with high achievers, and people generally kind of opt out of connecting with you if they feel like, ooh, like she Bree does a lot. Like I don't want to feel like I got to do a lot. So a lot of people who aren't high achievers are going to self-select out of not interacting with you because it puts pressure on them and will essentially really show them how much they are or are not doing. So as a high achiever, you say things like, I'm doing my job. Like, why am I getting a clap for doing my job? Like, I get a paycheck. Like, this is the exchange. Like, you tell me what to do. I do the things. You give me a paycheck. Like, that's what I'm paid to do. However, I think that most people, the average person in the workplace, is doing mediocre level work. They are doing the bare minimum to receive that paycheck. And when given the opportunity, they will do less every single time. And talking to you, you remind me of so many of my clients who I speak with all the time, and that your bare minimum is still over 100%. I can tell from how you're talking about things, how you're doing things, how you approach the world of work. Your bare minimum, if there was a scale that applied to everyone, you're probably operating at like 150%. And you're like, I was just doing 100 in that moment. I didn't even get to put the razzle dazzle on the event that I was organizing. Like I didn't get the time or
Yeah.
didn't have the timeline. Like that's not even the full scale. So why are you clapping?
Mhm,
Because you
mhm.
don't understand that I had 18 other things I would have added in if I had an extra
Yeah.
week of prep or if we had a little bit more budget. I was just basically
Yes.
doing the basic idea that you gave me. But what I have in my mind would have been all the way up here.
Yeah.
But when people operate mediocre, doing the bare minimum all the time, I think that that makes high achievers shine even more.
Mhm.
So while for you, it feels like I'm doing my job, I think when you're the outside looking in, when you think about other coworkers, other people doing things, other jobs you've had, other internships you've experienced, I think sometimes it's important to kind of take yourself out of it and think about how would you explain your work, your contribution if you were your best friend?
Mhm.
How would someone watching you do your work explain how you show up? Not how you do it, but the outside looking in to take yourself out of it.
No, that's a very good exercise. I'll try. Seriously. And I think to your point of me not even, I don't even feel like I'm operating at the potential that I want to be operating at. And I'm working towards that. And obviously, there are some systems that would help enable me to do that better. But I think stepping out of myself would definitely be something that helped me, even encourage me a little bit more to like put some more respect on my name
Yes, please. Yes,
from
please.
me.
I also think that
Yeah.
there's the element of time. And I think I talk to a lot of professionals about this
Oof.
too, in that you've been in your role for 4 years, which
Hmm.
is,
And that was strategic, by the way. I was like, I'm gonna give myself 3 to 5 years in this space to grow because it's my first professional job, and I was like, this is where I'm learning and growing and laying the foundation. But yeah, sorry to cut you off, but
no, 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 no. I love that because I think that a lot of folks, especially in younger generations, so we're like later stage millennials, Gen Z, there's this notion that um, people don't stay in jobs that long. So staying 4 years,
Mhm.
and it sounds like what I call like role mastery. You're committed to mastering where you are before you go to the next thing. I
Mhm.
think is so commendable. I personally love that because I
Mhm.
think that sometimes people move too fast. I'm not a big
Mhm.
believer in job hopping, and I think how I think job hopping, when people explain it on the internet, many times it's just like I want more money, or like I can do. There's another
Right.
opportunity. I can just do this next thing. I can move, 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 move. But what I
Yes.
found over time is that a lot of those folks end up moving laterally, and there ends up being
Yes.
like a ceiling on their development. So they've been an analyst for umpteen years. They've been a manager for umpteen years, but they haven't actually grown in responsibility, grown in influence because they haven't really sat and dug deep. So they end up kind of doing the same tasks. And you can always switch industries, companies doing the same level role, and sometimes make more money depending on the industry. But to actually master your role and position yourself for bigger things, you have
Mhm.
to master. You have to master and be able to say, like, I've
Absolutely.
done this, now I can teach this at a higher level. So
Absolutely.
you started the conversation saying that you're not really sure what your next thing is because you've got your dream job. Like you did
Yes.
the thing. So if I joke with my clients and I say, if I were your fairy job mother, like I
Mhm.
am like the tooth fairy for jobs or like the Tinkerbell for
Mhm.
jobs, and I can just be like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
Bree said she wants this, I'm gonna give her this. What would you say if I can give it to you right now? What would you say you'd want?
Ooh. I would love to be a freelance producer, and I can be that
Okay.
today. But the
Mhm.
scale that I want to like be able to produce on, I'm not. I don't have accessible to me right now, which is the
Got it.
mastery of it. And so I like producing videos right now. At some point, I want to produce and curate art spaces. At some point, I want to do experiential things. At some point, it might be me creating the art and not just producing the experience or the product. So I think that, and I'm just off the wing because
Mhm.
that is always very much a intimidating question for me because it really depends on the day. I'm an artist in so many different mediums and arenas that I'm currently pursuing as well outside of this is my 9 to 5.
Mhm.
So I would just love the flexibility to, and I think produce is the blanket term for what I'm trying to explain.
That makes sense. I think when we build our careers, there's a few different ways to think about it. And what I
Hmm.
hear you talking about is like you need some skill acquisition.
Hmm.
So I would challenge you to think about where you want to be in 10 years. and
Mhm.
think about the skills that are needed to be there. And I see you like, oh gosh, like I see you moving already. Like, I don't even want to do
Girl,
that. But
I've
I
been
think,
like asking this question to myself over dinner with a friend for the past
mhm,
2 weeks. And the conversation that we have is I feel more comfortable explaining who I want to be versus what I'll be doing. And
okay.
so, because it feels like, I don't know, I said in my entry that faith is a big part of
Mhm.
my planning and decision making. And so I look at what is happening in the instability in the world, and me future planning like that is very difficult. I feel like I'm building on sand sometimes and not rock. And so I like to be able to pursue and manifest the things that I feel like are within my control, and that is who I'll be as a person. I'll be someone who has freedom. I'll be someone who views the world like this and moves about the world like this. But to say like I'll be doing X, Y, and Z when I feel like that's not within, I can't say that. I don't know.
So that makes perfect sense. But I want to give you
Mm-hmm.
another, a little mindset shift, and that
Mm-hmm.
your goals are a moving target, always a
Mm-hmm.
moving target. They are not set in stone. Goals are rarely built on rock, to use your metaphor, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
time happens, things change, you change,
Mm-hmm.
opportunities flow to you throughout
Mm-hmm.
your time pursuing the goals. But I like to think of a goal as if the best case scenario happened. If I was able to create a navigation plan to get here, this is what would happen. Like we think about a plane, right? I live in New Jersey. I love to go to Mexico. There's so many things in between here and Mexico. And I can get to Mexico a million different ways. There's flights
Mm-hmm.
that will transfer me in Chicago. They love to do Chicago and go over and come back down. They can put me in Atlanta first. They could drop me in Texas first. Most of the time, they're not going to put me in another place in Mexico. They're going to take me right to like wherever the Mexican destination is, whether it's Mexico City or um, Cancun, wherever it is. There's so many different ways to get there. But ultimately, if I want to get to Mexico, I can get there. I just get to like choose my plan. If I want to go
Mm-hmm.
direct, or if I want to make a stop in a different city. So, what I'm kind of offering to you, especially where you are in the earlier stages in your career, I think we can't just go direct all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't always do a direct flight because we're missing some skills. When you're more seasoned in your career, sometimes you can just go direct because you just need to get connected to the right opportunity, the right person. But for you, I want you to think about the various stops that you need to make, the skills that you need to acquire over the next few years. I like to think about this in 2 year increments of like, what are the skills I need over the next 2 years
Mm-hmm.
to make the next stop? So I can give you a
Yeah.
more tangible example. So when I worked as a career counselor, so one of my first jobs as a career coach, I absolutely stinking loved it. I didn't even know it was the dream job until I got it. And I saw a student get a
Mm-hmm.
job as a direct result of working with me. And I was like, this is it. This is it. This is all I want to do
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of my life. Like I was so excited to help that student connect to their dream job. I was like, I knew I wanted to be in this field. But I was like, my goal is to become a director of career services. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I knew, okay, that I was at year probably 1, 2 in my career coaching journey at that point. And I was like, well, directors generally have like 7 to 10 years of experience. So what I did, I took an analysis like, all right, to become a director of career services, what are the experiences that I need in order to be prepared? And I broke that down in my career journey. So first I started just coaching students, like current undergraduate students. And then I'm like, okay, I also need to understand alumni populations because that gives me like the broader scope. I started in the College of Education, but I need to understand business students. I need to understand like more psychology students and alumni. So I started to craft like what are the experiences I can get to get the skills so I can apply for the next step in my journey.
Yeah.
If I would, so I got myself to Chicago, then I got myself to Nashville, then I got myself to Atlanta, then I made a stop in Texas before I got to Mexico. And each stop was essentially a skill that I needed to gain moving toward that target of I'd love to be here. And the fun fact is that I want to share with you is that I never became a director of career services.
Hmm.
And I did not become a director of career services because I got another opportunity that was even more in alignment, that literally changed
Mhm.
the trajectory of my entire career and my business. And it's
Mhm.
okay because all of the
Mhm.
skills I built still prepared me for that other opportunity that I did not know, honestly, until it was presented. And that's what I mean about goals being a moving target. So it's important to like plan for the goal, right? Like I believe in the art of manifestation. I believe in faith. I believe in those things, but I do think that we have to practice taking intentional action because there's a very fine line between like waiting to know and procrastination.
Oh, yeah.
And using procrastination, like, well, I don't know yet. I can't feel it. Like, I'm not quite sure yet. So I'm just going to sit right here.
Reading me.
I think, and only you know if that's what's happening. But for many
Right.
folks, we hold tight, like, I'm just not sure yet. So I'm just going to wait until I'm sure. I'm going to wait until I get a sign. I'm going to wait until this opportunity comes to me when we could be taking action and
Yes.
learning something in the interim.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
with that in mind, does that change where you think 10 years would be?
Well, I haven't. Your experience actually triggered a few thoughts in my mind that I would love your thoughts on too. So, like I said, production is one pillar, I guess, of the artistic expression that I think contributes to what that 10-year future will be. Other methods of a career that I'm developing is editor, like I braid hair, right? But more so in an artistic way, an editorial stylistic way. And I think that experience might be really good in lend to. I love the careers of individuals that I really admire. They have experience that aren't all solely tied to that one, industry. And so considering if that is something that contributes to that 10-year plan, or if that's just like a side hustle that like it can be built, you know what I'm saying? Because there are streams of income that we're trying to build. And so how does it delineate between if this is something that is contributing to that 10-year plan, or if this is something that's like a little bit off of the side of the road that can be built in smaller increments, is kind of where my thought process was going.
I love that you're asking that because I think that not everything that we do has to be monetized. Not everything
Mm-hmm.
has to be a part of the master plan. And it's important to know the difference
Exactly.
between I'm doing this for fun versus I'm doing this to make it a career. And I think that's something,
Mm-hmm.
again, I'd have to throw it back to you, but I think it's kind of sitting with
Mm-hmm.
where do you want your effort to be placed and what is the result that you're looking for. So if you want to be someone who braids hair in a super artistic way, but you only kind of do it when you're inspired, you only kind of do it referral only, you only do it when you're inspired by something to do it, like you do it for yourself, you do it for your friends, and that's kind of where you like it, then that's more of a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, I want to be the biggest, baddest hair braider in the US of A, and women
Yeah.
are flying into me to get their
Yeah.
hair braided for Fashion Week, that's a completely different plan
It
and level of
is.
energy. So I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
you deciding which one feels best to you, but also which one you have the capacity for. Because I
Yeah.
think in each season, like if you're kind of going on this producer journey, and I did check you out on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So I knew about the hair braiding. I know that there's like a wellness blog as well. I know you have your
Mm-hmm.
producer career. So it's hard to do all things at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I know as women we try, right? Like we try anyways. Like I know they said focus, but I'm gonna focus on all three. So that is hard. But I don't want you to necessarily choose because I think that it's really hard to be like, I'm not gonna focus on that right now. But I would want you to think of like your 1, 2, 3. So like where is your
Mm-hmm.
main energy going? Where is like the second energy going? And then where is like the residual energy going?
Mm-hmm.
And to adjust and level up or shift back if that doesn't feel good. So if you're like braiding one person a week and that ends up being your Saturday, because like I've got my hair braided before, I know that takes all the hours.
Seriously.
And you start feeling drained, like, girl, like I'm working all daggone day. At night, I'm writing on my wellness blog. And then my whole Saturday is dedicated to braiding someone's hair and rewatching Love is Blind again because every client wanted to watch Love is Blind this month. I know that happens to all the braiders. You got to watch the shows over again when something's out.
Okay.
You can be like, you know what? I think I'm going to do one client a month
Mm-hmm.
because I need these other 3 Saturdays for me to rejuvenate. When I started my career blogging, like my online career started as a blogger in like 2011, and I used to publish like 4 to 5 times a week. When my career picked up, because I was still building my career as a coach at that time, as a career and leadership expert, I determined, I was like, you know what, like 4 to 5 times a week, I can't really do that, but I'm going to do 1 to 2 high quality pieces each week. And I could write them on Saturday or Sunday. It'll take me about an hour or so to get it out, get the graphic, and be good. And then I'll schedule it out through the week. But I can't do this every single day, like Monday through Friday, have content pushing out and have it be at the quality, because life was a little bit too busy. So I think it's deciding all of the things that you're excited for your life to be comprised of. Because we're not just one thing. Like, we're not just a producer. We're not just a writer. We're not just a hair braider. Like, we're not just like all the other titles that we have: wife, mother, friend, sister, daughter. We're not just all those things. We need to decide, what does the life look like? One of the exercises I do with my clients sometimes, if they're having trouble kind of identifying the vision, is I have them think about, I think 10 years is a little hard to do, but I think about, if we know the 10-year goal, I want people to think about, what does it look like at a year or 2 years? Like, what does your ideal day look like from the moment you open your eyes until the moment you go to sleep? And I mean in grave detail. I mean, like, when you wake up, like, what is the first thing that you see? Are you alone, or are you with someone? Or if you're with someone, what is that relationship like? When your feet hit the floor, what is the first thing that you do? How do you feel? Like, do you grab a robe and go make yourself a coffee? Are you going downstairs and checking on a loved one? Are you rushing to work? Are you going to the gym? Like, all of the things. Then when we get to work, 'cause that's a big part of it, I don't want you to necessarily focus on the task, but think about how you're spending your time. So you're a producer. Are you someone who, like, you're on site? Like, you're not going to the office. Like, are you on site meeting different people, or are you in a corner office leading strategy and like empowering your team to go out? Are you reviewing the footage that came back in because you're the person who puts the final touch on it? Or are you the one behind the camera, like, asking the questions to get the content to fine tune it? How do you end the day? What does that feel like when you're ending your day? I think it's important to think about, what does the life I want to create look like? And I feel like I've given you a lot of big questions. A lot of food for thought.
Yes, I'm sitting here thinking about, that's going to be a long journaling session.
It is, but do it over time.
Yeah.
Do it over
Yeah.
time. And one of the things that I like to do is, after you kind of have like a good flow of what you want your ideal day to look like, I love to record it and listen to it. And I'll listen to it like as I do my makeup in the morning, or I try and listen at least a few times a week. And that, I feel like, also helps with the manifestation process, helps you
Oh,
also
yes.
cement and see it.
Oh,
Because
yes.
the other part of like the confidence of goals is like, do you feel like you are the person who can do this? And that impacts our actions. If we don't feel like we are the person who can do the thing, then we don't take the actions. And we end up in this loop of trying to, like, I need a sign first so then I can take an action, so then I can be the person, versus, let me be that person right now, take the actions, and then I'll have all the things that I want to have. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes so much sense. Everything that you just described, honestly, is it's a part of who I see myself becoming. And right now, especially in terms of the time that you said it may take, just rewinding a little bit about prioritizing what I want to do in life, how I prioritize my skills and what's a hobby versus what's not. I consider myself, and I say this on my wellness blog, a holistic, purpose-driven professional. Like, what I do is my purpose. And so how do I do this sustainably and in ways that don't drain me, and that I can still be my best self and output my best work? And so definitely lots to ruminate. And I really appreciate your perspective of that. And then also the different format. I think I've tried the write your ideal day in the life before. And as my background in writing, for some reason, it's hard for my hand to keep up with my thoughts. And so audio notes is something I hadn't considered doing. And so I'll definitely give that a try and see if I can better envision myself doing it. And then I believe in the power of words so much. Me speaking it will definitely help me instill confidence that I can be it. And I have, maybe become some of that already. So
100%.
yeah.
So I think a few things, like, just to make sure that we recap that we talked about everything today. We talked about making mistakes. And about like knowing the difference between, was this knowledge based? Was this like, did you have what you needed? Was this, did you have to take more time? And for you, it's really, you have what you needed, but this is just like the general learning curve, and making sure you track your wins so that you're able to
Mm-hmm.
really look back. So like, yes, I made this mistake, but I am not a mistake. I made a mistake. I am not a mistake. And I have a track record of success. And this was just me learning. And honestly, we
Mm-hmm.
learn faster when we make mistakes versus
Truly.
when we do everything perfectly, which
Right.
stinks because nobody likes to make mistakes, especially when you get caught making a mistake and someone's like, hey,
Ooh.
it doesn't feel good, but we learn faster. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about the confidence piece, about you building confidence in the workplace, confidence in your skills. And I think the tracking your wins kind of aligns with that. And then we talked about like your vision for yourself. I think my biggest piece of feedback for you is, I think it would be really helpful for you to attempt to lay out what you would like things to look like. And if 10 years is a lot, like let's do 5.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do 5. And then think about what skill do you want to acquire each year to get you
Mm-hmm.
closer to where you want to be in 5 years? What
Mm-hmm.
experience do you need? And then make sure that you set a note on your calendar to review it like every 6 months. How's it going? What are you doing? What are you not doing? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? And shift it. Because I think that many times we make these plans. And I remember in reading, you're like, I know how to make a plan. Like I've been with coaches, I've done these things. But I think sometimes we don't reiterate that the plan can change, and that it's not, I'm good for a dog. Like I have a whole transformation roadmap that I've been talking about on this podcast that I've made for myself. Like, girl, it's like
Mm-hmm.
22 pages. Okay. Like it is a whole thing,
Okay.
and it feels so concrete.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that I made the doc, I think, end of January. I have gone in there and tweaked and changed a
Mm-hmm.
little bit and changed a little bit. I've changed the format. I've done it a little bit differently. When I had to explain it to someone else, that made me redo a little section over here. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
changed dates, I've changed timelines. I've changed the plan a multitude of times in this month as I'm fine tuning. So I think give yourself a good amount of time to fine tune to where you feel good, shift to execution, but then put in time for you to actually review it. Your
Yeah.
plan is not in stone. I think a review period of at least once every 6 months to say, how does this feel? Am I on track? Did I pivot to do something else? And kind of updating it gives you more flexibility and more freedom. I am wildly excited that this is where you are 4 years into your career. Wildly excited. So I want to make sure that I give you the kudos there. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
final questions for today?
Not that I could think of. Lots to do. I really appreciate you and your perspective. I do. So, yeah. No.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you being here. And I hope that your next move is your very best move.
Thank you.
All right, that is a wrap for our first coaching session that we have had since I came back with the podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you are looking to get some candid advice on your career, on your business, on confidence, on whatever, on the Be Do Have model from our last episode and how that applies to whatever your goals are, I encourage you to head to the show notes and fill out your form to become a guest on the podcast where I would coach you live. If you're a little shy and you don't want to come on live and chat with me, you can submit a question using audio notes, and we'll simply play what you put on and I will answer it, and you can remain anonymous if that is more your speed. But I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to doing more coaching live on the Your Next Move podcast. And I hope also that you share this. If you enjoyed this episode, you know someone who's struggling with something that's similar and you feel like this would be helpful to them, please share this episode, and please like, comment, review wherever you listen to this podcast. We need more people to know about this show, and so we can continue to produce really great content. So as always, may your next move be your very best move, and I will see you soon.